Okay, let's talk about what you can do to prep your immune system. Again, a lot of this is redundant, but I think sometimes redundancy is good. The message is driven home even better. So one of the things that you can do is spend more time outside, especially right now. We're getting ready to roll into fall. And when that happens, the Earth is going to tilt on its axis. We're going to have less daylight. We're already seeing that the longest days of summer are past us. The days are getting shorter with each passing day. The amount of sunshine that we get is lowered. And that comes with what? When we're spending time outdoors, what are we actually getting access to? We're getting access to vitamin D, okay, through sunlight exposure. We're also getting production of melatonin, which melatonin is it's a very powerful antiviral. As a matter of fact, it's used, a lot of doctors are using this as an antiviral supplement, or a supplement that's very beneficial for viral infection. So vitamin D, melatonin. We also know that sunshine exposure and being outside, being in touch with nature, gives you all kinds of aromas, smells. I'm not talking about being outside in the city, but if you're outside in the country, you've got flowers, you've got trees emanating their aromas and their sensations, and those are coming in. And there's a lot of research on how the Japanese people call it forest bathing, because when you go out, there's actually research that shows that being out in nature improves the functionality of your immune system. So spending time outdoors, and there's also, if you're connected with the earth, there's the grounding element to improving your immune system. So this is free. This really doesn't cost you a dime, right? It's not like going to the store and spending hundreds of dollars on supplements. You just spend time outside and soak up what Mother Nature has to offer you. Maximize your sleep. As I talked about earlier, 10 to 2, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., okay, is that time frame that we heal and repair when we reset. Of course, sleep longer than that 4-hour window, but at least be asleep during that 4-hour window. Exercise, as I mentioned, not too much, but you got to do consistent movement and activity every day. And you can actually combine this one with this one. Exercise outside. This is one of my favorite ways to exercise, is to be outside when you're exercising. Now, some of you say it's too hot in the summer. I would just say go outside earlier. Go outside in the earlier morning when it's cool. And that way, again, I'm trying to give you reasons not to make excuses for yourselves to do the wrong thing. Avoid chemicals as much as possible. So eat organic food, right? Filter your air, filter your water. Do your best in that regard to avoid as many possible chemicals as you can. And then eat clean, eat real food. Start with the principles of what eating is about, which is if it comes in a box, if it comes in a package, if it comes in a wrapper, if it contains terms in the ingredient label that you don't understand or that you can't pronounce without a chemistry degree, it's not real food. So clean eating is about eating real food. Start from that fundamental premise, because if you haven't been allergy tested or if you don't know whether or not you're gluten sensitive, just eat real food. The real food itself is going to be better for you than any packaged or processed chemically loaded food that again is going to be more kind of akin to what you get here. So clean eating real food is very critical, very important. So those are the fundamental things. So next, let's go backward here and talk about nutrients. I promised you we would get into that tonight, because I know what many of your questions are is what should I take, and should I take anything, and how much should I take it if I am going to take it. So let's go through some of these nutrients here. Now, by no means is this the end-all be-all comprehensive list of nutrients that are important for for immune function, but these are some of the major players. So these ones are huge, right? So with vitamin D, my advice here with vitamin D is if you're going to take vitamin D, you should get with your doctor too and measure it. And if your doctor's not willing to measure it, go to a lab facility and ask them to measure your 25-OHD. And you want your level to be at least 50. If your level is greater than 50 and less than 100, somewhere between 50 and 100, then you're pretty well represented in your vitamin D status. If it's lower than that, you should consider supplementation. Vitamin D is very safe. A lot of doctors kind of shy people away from any of the vitamin D, vitamin A, because why? Because they're fat soluble. And so what most doctors learn in their nutritional training, all 7 hours of it, is that fat soluble vitamins are toxic or dangerous. And that's just not true. Fat soluble vitamins aren't toxic and dangerous. and not even in stronger or higher doses. Now, that being said, it's not a bad idea to measure them either. I would say that whether it was a fat-soluble vitamin or whether it was a mineral or whether it was a water-soluble vitamin. It's important, to not just go at this like a shotgun where you just say, I'm going to take everything because Dr. Osborne talked about these things. I'm going to take everything on this board in high mega doses indefinitely. That's not the right approach, not really. These things can be measured, they can be tested, and they can be targeted. So you know what your body's going to need, right? If you do the right type of testing, you'll know what your body's going to need, and you don't have to worry about it. But a standard decent dose for vitamin D, if you're under 50, to get it to come up, is 10,000 units. 10,000 units IU per day, times a couple of months. You can do that very safely, and then get it remeasured. And you'll see that if it's under 50, it should come up. So a lot of doctors will give 1,000 units, or they'll give 2,000 or 3,000 units. It's not enough. And some doctors even prescribe a pill where they're giving 50,000 units per day. I'm sorry, 50,000 units per week as a pill that you take. That's not enough. 50,000 unit one time a week, you really got to hit that 10,000 each day. Remember, it's taking all of it in one day of the week doesn't mean you have great absorption, doesn't mean you'll maximize the absorption of that one pill. So it's really important that you get a consistent, regular dose of this if you're trying to really drive it up. The other thing is it's important when you're taking vitamin D that because it is fat soluble, you take it in an emulsified form. Emulsification makes it, if you've got a history of celiac disease, or if you've got a history of malabsorption or gut damage or liver problems, or you don't have a gallbladder, remember that fat's harder to absorb. And so vitamin D is a fat. So if you can take it in an emulsified form, it's a lot easier for you to bring into your bloodstream and elevate your levels. We also have vitamin A. Now, vitamin A is a very, very important immune system vitamin. It plays a major role in the barrier of your lungs and in the barrier of your GI tract. Those cells in those areas are called epithelial cells, and you need vitamin A to regenerate them. Oftentimes, in the immune field, we refer to vitamin A as the barrier vitamin because it's important for the integrity of your immune barriers. So vitamin A, as far as quantity, you can do 10,000 units of vitamin A real easy as well. I wouldn't do longer than a couple of months. Now, if you've got liver problems, if you've got pre-existing liver damage, it's important you don't just go do this on your own. You definitely want to work with your doctor, but this is a 10,000 units of A day can be very, very effective at help bringing it up. That being said, again, don't just go it alone if you've got a pre-existing liver problem. Same thing here with vitamin D. If you've got a major kidney failure or kidney dysfunction disease like scleroderma, you don't want to just go high dosing vitamin D. It's contraindicated, and that's something that really needs to be monitored. But if your kidney, your liver function are great and you're in generally good health, these amounts are perfectly safe and perfectly fine for a limited time frame. But again, important that you look at getting them measured. As far as vitamin C is concerned, for an adult, for a healthy adult, if you're trying to protect yourself or really give your immune system strong support, it's to bowel tolerance. Some people, let's make some room here. Some people have very low bowel tolerance to vitamin C. So you take a gram of vitamin C and it gives you the runs, it gives you diarrhea. Bowel tolerance is how much your bowel can handle. That's what we mean when we say with vitamin C. So some of you have a really low tolerance, and so you might hear a doctor say, well, they told me to take 2 grams or 5 grams, but you take 1 gram and you're having loose bowels. Vitamin C dosing is always done to bowel tolerance. So if you're on 1 gram and you're having diarrhea, you got to back that down. If you're on 5 grams and nothing, right, then that's okay. The average adult, healthy adult, 150 pounds or so, 5 grams is real safe and real easy to take. So 5 grams of vitamin C, and that's on a daily basis, right? So again, but if that 5 grams is, if you're 150 pounds and you can't handle it, it's just causing diarrhea, back it down. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. With zinc, anywhere from 25 to 100 milligrams a day. You know, depending on your weight and size and everything else and your age and depending on other factors. But zinc's very safe. What you've got to be worried about or careful with zinc about is it can cause nausea. So it can, if you take it on an empty stomach, whereas vitamin C you can take on an empty stomach, D and A you can take on an empty stomach, but zinc you really got to take it with your big meals. So if you're, especially if you're kind of finicky and your stomach gets upset relatively easy, you got to make sure you take that meal before you take any kind of zinc supplementation. NAC's one of my favorite. Now, many of you have found, you know, this has been coming in a lot, that NAC has been pulled off of the shelves at Amazon. Amazon has removed all N-acetylcysteine or NAC from its stores. NAC is not illegal. NAC has not been banned. I know that's kind of a rumor that's going around out there. Amazon has pulled it. And if you're looking for NAC and can't find it, check us out at Gluten Free Society. I'm going to pop a link up in the feed. NAC is one of my favorite go-tos. As a matter of fact, I personally right now am taking NAC for several reasons. The big reason why I'm taking NAC, though, is because it supports mucosal immunity. This is really one of its strong suits. And so what that means is it helps your mucosal barriers, it helps support them so that they can protect you from things that may be trying to penetrate. Again, viruses, bacteria, whatever it might be. So NAC, very, very helpful in that regard. And, you know, again, if you're an average adult, 100 to 150 pounds, 1,000 milligrams a day is a good, just think of it as a preventative, prophylactic type of quantity. You can go higher, but this is a really good place to start. If you're considering going higher, I just recommend you probably ask your doctor or work with somebody who knows what they're talking about in order to really take it up much higher than that. B vitamins. B vitamins are very important. There's a number of B vitamins, B1, 2, 3, B12, folate, B6, etc. These B vitamins are crucial and critical for your body's ability to generate energy. And if you're not generating energy, how well do you think your immune system is going to function? B vitamins are important across the board. And so aside from food sources of B vitamins, a good B complex vitamin is where it's at, in my opinion. And so with B vitamins, it's anywhere from 10 milligrams all the way up to 100 milligrams, depending on the B vitamin that we're talking about. But B vitamin is very crucial for function of the immune system. Probiotics, especially if you've got a history of chemical exposure to antibiotics or chemical exposure to antibiotic-like substances. So if you've recently been on an antibiotic, getting a probiotic in afterwards, in my opinion, is a very important way to support your recovery from any potential side effects or reduction in immune capacity. So probiotics, very, very important as an immune supporting agent. Remember, the good bacteria inside your GI tract, the ones that colonize, they're actually there. They create competition for anything else that's trying to come in and create an issue for you. So a good, healthy, diverse population of microorganisms in your gut is really key. We mentioned protein earlier, but quantitatively how much, well, let's say probiotic. So probiotic about 40 billion plus. If you're taking a supplement, CFU, colony forming units, and that's per day. Anything less than that is probably not going to accomplish much of anything. It's kind of like trying to spit out a forest fire. You're not going to do much. Protein. Protein's very critical for the immune system function. If you're over the age of 60, if you're over 60, okay, you need 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Okay, so grams of protein per kilogram body weight if you're over 60. And this is where we see a lot of people when it comes to cold and flu season, they pick up infection. They do very poorly because they're malnourished in protein. They're not getting enough protein in, or because they're on medicines that affect the GI tract that cause protein malabsorption like antacids. And so their muscles are weaker because they're sedentary. As they got older, they just stopped doing as much. And so they have poor muscle content, they have low protein intake, they have poor protein digestion absorption. But protein is super, super important. And what I would say, if you fit that category where you have a harder time digesting protein, you might consider what are called free-form amino acids. Free-form amino acids are it's protein in its amino acid form, so there's no digestion that really has to occur. And you can take amino acid powders. We have something actually called ultra aminos, which is a combination of the essential amino acids that you can take in a smoothie. You can mix it in water and just drink it. And there's not a whole lot of digestion that has to occur, but it can really help get your taking in those essential amino acids can really help bolster your protein functions within your body. Remember, protein's super critical for immune system function. Now, if you're under 60, this requirement depends on your lifestyle. So, some would argue that anywhere between 0.8 grams to 1.4 grams, again, same thing down here, grams per kilogram of body weight, is adequate. And you err more toward the lower side if you're sedentary, if you're not as physically active, if you're not pushing yourself to exercise much. You go higher on that spectrum when you are doing more, physical fitness and exercise. Again, the more you exercise, the more your protein requirement goes up. And if you're a child, like a growing child in puberty or adolescence, you really need to probably be closer to this 1.2 to 1.4. Some research says as high as 1.6 because you're growing and you've got to support your body's ability to grow. So again, protein, very, very important. And then we have selenium. Selenium's a powerhouse of a nutrient. It regenerates or helps to regenerate the liver. It helps to regenerate a substance in the liver called glutathione. And it's a very, very potent anti-inflammatory. And so when we look at selenium, one of its functions is it's a very powerful antioxidant. And it's been shown in a number of research studies to help with recovery time when people get infections. Selenium, as far as quantity, it's anywhere from 200 to 400 micrograms per day. And that's don't do that longer than a couple of months. Again, anytime you're going to look at heavy supplementation at higher amounts for longer than a few months, it's a bad idea. You want to get your levels checked and make sure you're not taking too much, because just because these things can be healthy and can be good and are relatively safe and non-toxic, everybody's unique and different. You always want to consider that as the potential possibility that you could take too much of a good thing. So it's always just a good idea to measure. So these are some of the key critical immune boosting nutrients. Now, I'm not talking today, notice there weren't any herbs. We didn't mention echinacea or elderberry or andrographis or mushroom or shiitake or reishi or any of those types of things. Just strictly, we were sticking to the vitamins and minerals and the probiotics. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.